Well, now, okay. So I haven't been following Overwatch for a hot minute. I have not looked in on that game in a while. Blizzard broke my heart with that game many times over, and I fell quite out of love with it and its universe, which is sad because God, what a lot of potential it once had that was rather brutally squandered. So I've not really kept in touch with Overwatch. I briefly looked in when they launched Overwatch 2, hoping that they would actually deliver on the story mode for the thing, which of course but recently I was informed that they're launching a new hero into the game who's Danish, which is interesting because so am I. If I drop the content creator voice for a second here and I speak with what you might consider my natural accent, then I must admit I'm more than a bit curious about exactly what they're doing with her, because she's called Freja, which that's definitely a Danish name. It's the name of the goddess of love, and it's like a sort of classic Danish name. It's actually kind of hard for me to. It's actually kind of hard for me to stay in my Danish accent because I've spent so long, like, beating it out of my system. Because this accent, the Danish accent, foreigners sometimes find it very charming. We don't. We don't find it charming because this is the way that our politicians and our parents and our grandparents and just the most uncool people in the entire world, they speak English like this. And so if you're not that, you will often try very, very hard to suppress your Danish accent and put on like a nice sort of vaguely kind of American-esque content creator voice for whatever, or like, well, actually a lot of Danish people, they'll sort of speak in something that sounds a little bit British, but not really, but that's sort of because we all learn received pronunciation in school. So let me try. Okay, down to the Danish accent again. I'm very curious about a couple of things because Overwatch as a game, it engages in a lot of stereotype, right? Like, it's like you have the Shimada brothers, and it's like it's a ninja and it's a samurai with a bow, and it's like, okay, yeah, no, like pretty deep in the national stereotype there. And then at other times they have like characters that are not so stereotyped. It's sort of a little bit all over the place, but like they do have a Swedish character, right? Torval. Yeah, I think that's what he's called. Something like the dwarf character, right? Like the guy who's right out of World of Warcraft. And he's sort of like he's not very Swedish to me in the sense that certainly as a Danish okay, so the relationship of the Scandinavian countries, right, is that we, the Danes, are a bunch of drunken loudmouth potato farmers with like an incomprehensible accent and a language that makes no goddamn sense, with has way too many vowels, right? The Norwegians are whimsical little forest trolls, just frolicking around in the mountains, sleeping on giant piles of oil wealth, who no one can take seriously because their entire language sounds like a song. And the Swedes are if you took the stick out of someone's ass, and then you had the blue fairy bring it to life like Pinocchio so it became a real boy. That's the Swedes, right? They are stick up the ass personified. That's how we talk about each other. But the trouble is, if someone who's not Scandinavian says one fucking word about any of my Scandinavian neighbors, then we're going to have a problem because these are my Scandinavian fucking neighbors and you don't get to talk shit about them. That's only me. I get to do that because I am from here. So I'm curious about the extent of stereotyping that they're going to do to Freja, because they can sort of go either in the one direction where it's just, oh, she's just a sort of anime superhero with an accent, or they can lean into some national stereotypes about us, which I'm very curious about where they're going to draw that line. And by the way, if you're getting tired of hearing this Danish accent by now, well, settle in for it, because you're going to hear more of it. By the way, there are many Danish accents. Like, there isn't just one Danish accent. I am from the deep south of Denmark, in the island sea of Fyn. So down where I come from, there's a lot of small islands in the island sea. that are sort of quite isolated from the mainland, and so they often have like their own very distinct accents, and that influences how you speak English. Whereas if you were from Copenhagen, then you would have a somewhat different English accent than I do. And even my sort of Danish English accent is also kind of a mixture all over the place, because when I was a kid, I tried not to speak like I came from Fyn. I tried to speak like I was a little more rigsdansk, like a little bit more the Queen's Danish and a little bit more Copenhagen-y. But then I moved from Fyn to Jylland, which is the western peninsula of Denmark, and I picked up a lot of accent from there. And now I live over on Sjælland, or Zealand, which is where Copenhagen is. And so my accent is picked up from everything all over the place. Anyway, let's actually watch the trailer for Freja. And I'm very, very curious, especially about the voice acting. Like, is she actually going to say Danish lines? Because that will be incredibly hilarious. Danish immigration, I see.
Sir, I think you should see this.
Damien Barbosa, Mashiti Betty, and Sahil Bedia, aka The Wolf. All bounties recently posted, all neatly delivered, all very, very interesting.
Don't know what the accent is that this man is doing. Man, I gotta say, Overwatch trailers, you can tell that Blizzard isn't putting as much of a budget into it, right? Like, certainly, compared to the early trailers from Overwatch 1, when you got, like, the Black Widow, like, the Widowmaker trailer, or the Sombra trailer, and things like that, this is decidedly a more low-budget production. Doesn't look terrible. It really doesn't look up to the kind of standard I would normally expect from a Blizzard production. But, you know, like, Overwatch has been gutted. It has been severely gutted. Like, I was reading the book Play Nice by Jason Schreier. Jason Schreier. Let me just say his name properly. I was reading the book Play Nice, which is about the history and the rise and fall of Blizzard. And he talks a lot about the ways in which Bobby Kotick particularly really killed Overwatch by like hyper pursuing this dream of esports success, which was just never going to happen. Like, right up, like, he could not have known about the pandemic, and that was the nail in the coffin, but the Overwatch League was never going to be successful because Overwatch just wasn't the game for that. Like, there's a reason that League of Legends sort of persists, and it's number one that Riot puts a ton of money into, like, really just subsidizing their entire esports ecosystem, which at this point really couldn't survive without them. Something which Riot has very much made sure of. But it's also that a MOBA, a game like League of Legends, with these clear map objectives, you have a zoomed out view. It's not as though it's easy, but it is, I would say, a lot more comprehensible to understand who's winning in a MOBA like League of Legends, because, well, if the towers are down, you're losing, right? If they take the dragon and the baron, you're losing. But if you are playing a game like Overwatch, and it's a little bit more like, oh, the cart with the bomb went a little bit this way, and now it went a little bit that way, and now it went a little bit this way, and oh, someone's getting a lot of kills, but that doesn't seem to matter. Like, Overwatch's flow was even more obtuse and difficult for a casual viewer to understand. Even people who were, like, experienced with first-person shooter games, and the ways they had available to film it, and the way that the action came across on, like, a spectator camera, it just wasn't as easy. It wasn't even as clear as something like Counter-Strike, right? In which it's very clear, like, someone plants the bomb, if the bomb goes off, they win. Shoot people in the head, you win. Like, where there's a very clear win and loss state, and it's like, it's a lot more readable. And also because in Counter-Strike, there isn't like 5,000 different individual character abilities to take care of, and there isn't like 5,000 individual heroes whose names you need to know in order to understand what this hero is capable of and what can he do when he comes on screen. And that's something that's very much a problem for something like Overwatch, and I would say also a problem for something like Valorant, which does inherit a lot from Counter-Strike, but not so much as to completely avoid the problems. So poor Overwatch was forced into this role as a premium competitive esports game, which completely killed its casual scene, because now the developers had to balance absolutely everything around high-level competitive. right? It had to be balanced for that first, rather than being balanced for the majority of players. And that's a difficult tightrope to walk for anything. League of Legends has also been affected by it. But I'm sorry, anytime I talk about Overwatch, I just get sad and angry because there was something so special here. There was something like genuinely special. And I know this sounds flippant, but you don't get people making that much porn of a bunch of video game characters if there wasn't something compelling and charismatic about them. Like, that simply doesn't happen. Like so much has been made, so much fun has been made of the Overwatch porn scene and all that, but it was an indication that people really, really engage with these characters. People really, really, like, fixated on them and, like, make them part of their psychosexual imagination. It is a badge of honor to an extent, and it is an indication that a fictional universe is being accepted and that it is being integrated into people's, like, cultural understandings of the world. And like, to see it, just all of it dropped on the floor this way. Like, because fucking Bobby Kotick wanted $20 million for a slot for the Overwatch League in the middle of what was an incredibly obvious bubble in the esports market. It's like just these fucking executive dipshit assholes coming in, shitting all over everything that the developers are doing and saying, change this so we can make more money. It's depressing. Anyway.
Interesting. I thought you'd be more surprised than that, Max. I'd call you Marquis, but dark web monikers are so impersonal.
Who the... I need to Google this. I need to know who's the voice actor for Olivia Leanas. Andersen. Oh, Olivia Lee Andersen. Oh, so it... Oh my god. Really? Oh, interesting. Okay. Ah, she had a voice in Assassin's Creed. She was in... Oh my god, she was in Johnny English Strikes Again. And there's a fucking thing. Okay, but her first credits as voice actor was on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where she did a couple of voices. And she has not appeared in very much. Interesting. There's not much of her on IMDb. But she is a Danish actress. Yeah, because that... I was wondering about the accent. I was really wondering about the accent. Because that was an authentic Danish accent. Authentic. Autentisk af helvede til. But she is based, I think, in the UK for acting. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. And she does like a bunch of stage work and acting on stage in the UK. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, interesting. Because that was an authentic Danish accent. And also, one thing you can hear is the thing I was talking about. I'm working very hard to go very, very deep into my Danish accent here. But what she's doing there is much more the classical Danish accent, which is to say, you get the Danish inflections, but you also get that little hint of British, right? That little hint of British English received pronunciation. That sort of sneaks in because that's the way we're taught English. We're not taught English from American. We're taught English from British English.
See, Giffen, I presume. And you come bearing gifts.
Not gifts, bounties.
Yes, bounties. And my cargo that seems to have gone missing. Might you also have something to do with its absence?
Considering there was a problem with payment last time, I helped myself.
There was a problem? Oh my. Perhaps I should fire my accountant. Speaking of surprises, I am curious how you found them. And so quickly. I thought you worked alone.
I do.
Well then, please, enlighten me.
What's the tell? Your targets were nipped. And I'm not. So here we are.
Your storytelling leaves much to be desired. Instead of a story, perhaps a demonstration.
Okay, the action kicks in and then this looks pretty fucking good. Because, like, there's definitely something about this particular... It's a 3D rendering style that's trying very, very hard to emulate 2D animation, right? And this is something we've seen more and more and more and more of, especially in game trailers and such, where they're trying with this very heavy, like, cell shading look that's trying to emulate the flatness of 2D animation. And I've never been a huge fan of it. I always think that it just ends up with the weaknesses of both without really the strengths of either. Like, when it's standing still, right? And especially when you're in these, like, zoomed out shots where you can really work with the lighting of the 3D, they can look pretty good. Like, this is a very well composed shot. But there are definitely things about the compositing. And like here they gain some of the strengths of 2D animation because you can see they apply these... You see that? They apply these streaking effects to the character to really smooth out her motion. And that works really well, but you can also see they're affecting the frame rates of two-dimensional animation, right? Where you have these frames where nothing's moving, so it's emulating being animated essentially on twos, right? Being animated on every other frame instead of every frame. And the jaggedness of that don't always work. And also, I will say, the compositing here is a bit weird because what she's doing is she's sliding over here, then she has to appear. The blocking is she appears here to the left of the soldier who's shooting at her. But where's she standing here? Where's the ground? Because what it looks like here is we have the building, and then that building, the perspective line implies that the ground stops somewhere like here. So what is she standing on relative to the soldier back there? That doesn't really make any sense spatially. And that's sort of the problem with trying to compose three-dimensional characters into these two-dimensional backgrounds, is that sometimes what you can do with the 3D animation becomes quite limited by what the 2D background is willing and able to allow. And you can also see this rather rough shift from this painted two-dimensional background that looks very good in the texturing, and now we swap over to a 3D environment, and you can see like all the containers all of a sudden look like they're rendered in Roblox. It's not quite as good. The action mostly covers up for it, and the reason they switch it is because they want to do these 3D camera moves, like pulling back and letting things happen. But yeah, no, I'm not so sure that this is like this. It's a style thing, and I just don't really like this style of rendering. Like it's trying to affect the look of 2D animation, and it really shouldn't. It should just, like, I feel like stuff like this, it works better if it just commits to being 3D animation, because it is 3D animation, and if you want 3D animation to look like 2D, you have to put a lot more work into it than this. That's pretty good. How many dudes does this man have? Honestly. I feel like he only had like 5 or 6 guys at the start of it, but now there was just more and more and more of them, and none of them can hit a shot for shit. She wasn't even really taking cover. She was out in the open the whole time. That's just storytelling. Like that's the conceit of storytelling, right? It's the same thing in Star Wars. Why can the stormtroopers never hit Luke? Well, because if they shot him in the head when he pokes up over the edge to deliver a line or something, then the story is over. That's why they can't hit him. But this really, the storytelling here is supposed to be that she's such a hyper-competent badass that she could just take all of them out without ever having any trouble whatsoever. But again, compare and contrast this with, for example, Soldier 76's cinematic, when he's dealing with the thugs. Like, that cinematic also makes a point out of his vulnerability, right? And it's showing that, yeah, he can take them out, but only because he's ambushing them. He's operating from a position of tactical superiority, and not when he's totally surrounded by, like, a bunch of guys who have weapons directly trained on him, ready to shoot the moment he moves. Yes, I know she's a superhero. Superheroes can do these things, but there's a way to do that storytelling in a way that makes the character feel vulnerable and like feel more human. Whereas this is just there was no tension here at all whatsoever, because these guys were shooting directly at her out in the open, and none of their bullets even became moderately close. See, that shot works because they have this 2D rendered fire in the background, and it's sort of like that's the attracting thing, and then the character is not doing much of anything, so the 3D animation is not distracting.
Very good, very good. Expensive, but good, good. Here, this is for the bounties. All of them. Keep the cargo. Consider it a bonus.
You wanted me to come here tonight. This was all a test?
It was a calculation. I had to be sure you were right for this.
Right for what?
For a problem no one else has been able to solve. I think you might find it particularly interesting.
Ooh, 706,000 views on a trailer for a new Overwatch hero in 6 days. That's rough. That's, again, I'm thinking back to the glory days, right? A trailer for a new hero for Overwatch would have gotten a lot faster.
I've got other jobs, Max. You understand.
Indeed I do, Giffen. Or should I say, Freya. But I also recognize those moments, rare as they are, when opportunity knocks.
Who do we have there? Is that another Overwatch hero that I've not been aware of yet?
He should have led with this. Leave him to me.
Okay, so let's have a look at her character design. I think we get a shot of her. So, I like the freckles. Freckles are like you get a lot. You do get a decent proportion of like freckled redheads in Denmark. Like they're not as common as like Ireland or whatever, but they're reasonably common. Like there's some Celtic overlap there. I do appreciate. That's the thing. I was like, how stereotypical are we really gonna go? And I did notice immediately that they weren't going with like Scandinavian blonde, right? Which is like the very stereotypical thing. The thing is like there aren't that many blondes in Scandinavia. Most people have brown hair. Because it's like anywhere else. But what is true is that a lot of us have completely pure white hair when we're children. I certainly had. Like I had like completely very thick, very completely pure white hair when I was a young child, which I think is reasonably common. And then it sort of darkened into the color that it has now as I aged. But I'm glad they didn't go with the Scandinavian blonde. Also because they already used that for Tor. It's not Torval, is it Torval? The dwarf, this Swedish dwarf fella. Is he now I'm trying to remember, is he in Overwatch canon? Like, does he have dwarfism? Is he a little person? Or is he just like a person who happens to be very short? I don't actually remember if he's supposed to be like a little person. I don't think so. He's not really proportioned after what you usually see with a person, someone who has like dwarfism or who is a little person. So, Anyway, what else is there? Oh, right, the gameplay where we get some more voice lines from her. Oh, Batman.
Freya, at your service.
Freya, at your service. Like that service, that has the Danish cadence.
Been a while since I had so much company. The hunt begins. Nothing personal, kid.
Did you just say nothing personal, kid? Oh, Jesus Christ. Hearing that in a Danish accent is terrifying. That's awful. I need to hear it again.
Nothing personal, kid.
Ha! Certainly.
As the bounties keep coming, I'll keep collecting.
The bounties keep coming. I'll keep collecting. If I were to take a guess, I would say it sounds like a Sjælland accent, a Zealand accent. It sounds like it could be somewhere in Copenhagen, possibly. Because certainly, let me try and find. Because if you come from Fyn, then your Danish accent will sound more like this. Especially from Fyn, you'll have a lot of those upwards inflections at the very ends of sentences. And you'll tend to drag your vowels because you're from Fyn. And the Fynen Danish accent drags the vowels a lot. So your Danish accent will probably sound something like this. Whereas a Copenhagen accent, they tend to be a little more staccato, a little more slow, and a little bit more low. So...
As the bounties keep coming, I'll keep collecting.
The bounties keep coming. Det lyder godt nok, som det kan være noget København. Eller Sjælland. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like I cannot tell where she's from just from hearing her accent from in English in this. And also, she could be putting on a heavier accent, just like I am doing right now. I'm putting on as heavy a Danish of an accent as I can.
You got in my way. Outlaw country, huh? Enough bounties out here for a girl to retire on. Come on.
Enough bounties out here for a girl to retire on.
I'm notorious for a reason. I never get tired of this.
I'm no scared of nothing.
I'll get
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Nothing. I'm no scared of nothing.
I'm no scared of nothing. Is that an Overwatch hero? Good gracious. Is that a hero they added to the game? Or is he just like a character for this? Because what the hell? What on earth am I looking at here? And he's Scottish, I suppose? Okay. Maybe I should look into the new Overwatch heroes, because that's certainly a different kind of design than classic Overwatch style.
I'm no scared of nothing.
I'll get quite the payout for you. Nu Vangada!
Nu Vangada, okay. basically that means now you're in for it, or like I'm about to kick your ass, right? It means sort of literally. It means now you should expect it, right? Now you should expect me, like now I'm fixing to give you a slap out upside the head. That's essentially kind of what it means.
You wanted the best, and you got it?
Oh, that's I do love the voice acting. The voice acting is completely authentic. Completely authentic. That is completely true. And it is, okay, so the storytime video is with the voice actor. Who did they get for the art for this? Hang on. I feel like Hannah Templar. I feel like I've seen their work before. Oh, TBSkyen worked on this. Okay. I feel like I've seen that art style somewhere before. Hannah Templar. I need to look that up. Where do I know you from? Let me just go back to... Oh, it is so weird speaking in my natural accent. I work so hard to suppress it. And it's not, like I said, it's not really my natural accent, because this is my natural accent. When I speak English, I slip into this immediately. I don't talk like this in Danish in my daily life, because I've worked so hard to not... Oh, that's why I know her. Cosmo Knights Flung Out of Space, 39 Clues. Yeah, I've seen these around. Oh, she's an accomplished comic artist. Oh, damn, she's good. Holy shit. Okay. So let us with the video.
Hi, my name is Olivia Leanderson, and I voice Freja in Overwatch 2.
There you go. Now you can hear that she's actors working on stage in the UK, right? You can hear, I can hear that Danish inflection in there a little bit, but you can also definitely hear this is someone who was trained in received pronunciation, right?
Today I'm reading Storm Chaser. Are you ready? I was a child when the Omnic crisis hit Copenhagen.
Copenhagen? Oh my god.
My mother was a diplomat, and people looked to her for answers. Get me through to search and rescue. She was the eye of the storm. Calm, constant, consistent. We need to begin triage immediately. And through her, I learned that keeping people safe came down to a level head and a focused eye. Then deploy additional medical assistance.
That's not... So here's me sitting feeling like, certainly that does look like the architecture of Copenhagen. It's just, is that... I think I've seen that church before with that, but granted, there's a lot of churches with spires.
But
like
I
that.
wanted to be on the ground, in the storm. Studying criminology gave me access to the latest tech. Showed me how to track and stop threats before they began. The local search and rescue team offered a more hands-on education.
Help! Help us!
I developed the tactics, the expertise to find anyone in any place.
I'm not so sure that the skills you develop on a search and rescue team at sea sort of transfer over to bounty hunting, but okay, fiction is fiction.
We're going to get you out of here.
And I discovered the rush of seeing a job through to the end. Doing something that mattered.
Over here!
I dedicated myself to chasing that feeling. After graduation, the military was eager to recruit me. She's the one you mentioned, Freja.
Freja.
I had my eye on bigger fish. Being a part of Overwatch's search and rescue team gave me the opportunity to take my mission further.
Okay, so she is
Step
ex-Overwatch.
lightly. Intel says they should be around here. With their resources, no one in need of saving was beyond my reach. 10 guards, 3 on patrol, 7 hostages. Our group didn't have the same cachet as those on the strike team, but I preferred staying behind the scenes.
I really like this artist. Like, she has a really good command of, like, you see the way she's using texture to dapple the shadows out, but it's like sort of this like rough paper texture thing that she's doing to dapple them out. But then at other times she has like she's very careful about where she uses them to imply the texture of the surface, and it's very effective. She doesn't use it on hair, I noticed, which is interesting. It's like it's sort of a halfway mix between something like a Lean Claire style and something a little bit more sort of American comic booky. Because I'm getting like, this definitely feels like there's some influence from European comics in here.
Wanted to do my best work. Well done. We could use more level heads like yours, and to work alongside the best. Many thought Overwatch was untouchable. Superheroes come to life. Freya will handle evacuating the civilians. She needs cover. Once it's clear, we take the fight to the deep-sea raiders. I knew the truth. Not everyone in the organization was perfect.
Damn it! Fall back! Hold for search and rescue. We aren't done here.
Protocols were slipping. Reyes and his team pulled the fighting into the city before we could evacuate the
Reyes.
area.
Oh dear. Yeah, Reaper. Oh, Reaper.
We lost 14 civilians. If not for Freya's efforts, who knows what might have... You know how complex these operations can be, Sorolu. I'm sure Search and Rescue understands these risks. But I was doing my job.
There's the Swede. And the German. We Danes have a particularly complex relationship with Germany. On the one hand, very important trading partner. On the other hand, did occupy us for a while there in the 1940s for a little bit. On the other hand, we also threw down our weapons and just let them in and became collaborators. So, it's not like we have that much standing to be snooty about it.
That was my only concern. Yes, sir. Through everything, leadership told us to stay the course. Some left. I kept going. The unrest seemed to grow from within and without.
If you're protecting us, why are people dying? Shut
Hang on, is that the objection that they have? They don't have the objective of, I mean, okay, whatever.
us, Black Watch.
The politics of Overwatch, again, and it's a video I've wanted to make for ages, back when Overwatch was, you know, alive and like vital. I quite wanted to do a video about like the politics of Overwatch and the way that it handles this idea, because Overwatch is very much sort of a cartoon dream of the United Nations, right? That's very much where Overwatch is. It's this dream of like sort of this ancient American dream, specifically of having the League of Nations, right? Like having this sort of unified government of equals, all sort of deciding how to run a peaceful world together in common interest brackets. Common interest as arranged around free markets and capitalism. And Overwatch is very much an extension of that ideologically into the universe that it's presenting, in which like this dream of a united world where everyone comes together toward like for shared purpose, like every race, color, creed, and like political affiliation all come together towards like common ends and the good of all. It's this very specific brand of what I would call a very American optimism, a very American globalist optimism. That's like, on the one hand, very naive and silly, and also like it was an ideology. It was invented as a smokescreen for imperial ambition. But on the other hand, also a very compelling dream. Like, it's a very compelling kind of way to see the world, and I would have loved to do a video about that. I mean, I still can, I suppose. It's just the SEO probably isn't there anymore.
Records. We don't need you here.
I believed in Overwatch. I knew there were people who needed us.
We're going to get you out of here.
I was so focused on my work, I didn't see the whole thing crumbling. Until it was too late. In the months of investigation after the destruction of Overwatch's Swiss headquarters, the success and efforts of the support teams...
Oh wait, Mercy, is she German or Swiss? Makes no difference to me, frankly. I mean, but...
The Eco Point program, the medical research group, search and rescue, and so many more were never considered. Most of Overwatch had done everything right. It didn't matter.
No, it really doesn't.
A few bad actors had ruined Overwatch and anyone associated with it for the world.
Yes. I mean, yes, that's sorry, that's how it goes, I'm afraid. It's like, it doesn't really matter if, like, no matter how much good work you do at several levels of the organization, if your organization includes like a Black Watch squad that just goes around killing people, you know what? Like, your organization is probably pretty tainted forever. Not that that's necessarily fair to people just trying to do good work, but that's how it's supposed to go. Like, it is supposed to taint you quite severely when something like that happens.
DAF, your application to the Danish Armed Forces, Ministry of Defense.
After further
your
consideration,
the RCC.
regrettably after reviewing
Your application to the Danish
what
Rescue
DK jobs near
Coordination
you?
Center.
Hiring opportunities in
Unfortunately,
your
we
area.
will not be hiring candidates. I gave Overwatch everything. My skills, my passion, my life. And it left me with nothing.
I mean, you did save a lot of lives. Was that not what you cared about?
Without purpose, I was adrift. Desperate. But the winds changed. And I realized...
Belønning. 115,000 kroner. 150,000 kroner, that's nothing. That's no money at all for, like... They must be low-level criminals then.
I could still be of use in this new world. Freja was an ex-Overwatch operative, a name with too much baggage. So, I became Geffen. At first,
Geffen. Ah, I know that name. That's... Because it's like... Gefjon. Right, is that not... Is that like... Gefjon? Yeah. Because Gefjon is it's a figure. I'm trying to remember. It's associated with plowing. It's something to do with agriculture. Which that makes sense because Freja is the fertility goddess and the goddess of love, but she's the sister of Frey, who's the god of love, of like well, the god of the harvest rather, and the god of like animal breeding and fertility in that sense. He's the god of that kind of fertility. And so if Gefjon is like a goddess of plowing or something. I mean, hang on. I'm looking at the Wikipedia. Okay, so she's supposedly either a goddess or like a legendary person who was associated with agriculture and plowing. Yeah, that's suppose. Yeah, she speaks with the Aesir. She has a little bit of strife with Loki. Okay, yeah.
First, I chose jobs Freya might have taken. Saving innocents, capturing criminals. But with each new job, I learned not every search is a rescue. On the dark web, I sought out difficult targets. Bounties no one else could deliver. The price mattered less than the challenge.
Okay, now she's getting up there in what's that? Yeah, 800,000 kroner, 800,000 kroner. That is a little bit of money at least.
Less than the challenge. The rush I'd been missing finally returned, deepened with the thrill of the hunt. It was a second chance to take everything I knew and do something with it. For too long, I thought I wanted to be like my mother. I tried living to help the world. And the world decided it was better off without me. Now, I live for myself.
That's a very good artist.
And that's that. Pleasure doing business.
I must admit I'm charmed by her. I am charmed. There are definitely charming things. So, the thing I was talking about with... I'm going to switch back to... I can't do any more Danish now. Oh, enough of that. Let me go back to... So, the thing I was talking about with the character design, like the level of national stereotyping, really very little in it in her character design. Like, we really... Like, it's not like... She's not a fucking, like Viking, for example, right? I'm sorry, but ADHD meds wore off a while ago, and my thought processes are all over the place. There's really not like much sort of Danish visual stereotyping going on here. Like there's a little bit of ice, sort of like in their color scheme, right? It's got this blue and white thing going on. It's like, oh, ice, frozen, but like Denmark is not really like Denmark is part of Scandinavia, yeah, but we're about as far south as you can possibly go in Scandinavia. Like we're the country where other Scandinavians go for summer, right? Because we have the beaches, we have the best beaches in all of Scandinavia, and no one can tell me otherwise. So like Denmark isn't really snowy. Like Denmark isn't really cold. Denmark really isn't the land of blizzards and the midnight sun. That's Norway and like the northern parts of Sweden and Finland to an extent. No, well, Finland is the land of the midnight sun much more than any of the other ones. Like it gets fucking dark up there for a while. And then they go to the sweatbox and whip each other with birch branches because they are cool. They're great. They're cool. They're amazing people. I won't say one word against them. Please don't tell on me to see Mohaya. There's not a lot of national stereotyping in her character design. Like the red hair, definitely like that feels like something of like knowing that like, yeah, there are a bunch of redheads in certain parts of Scandinavia because we have a certain amount of genetic crossover with like the Celtic islands. Like there were, I believe, evidence of like a lot of influence in trade with Celtic cultures in Denmark and like a lot of sort of crossbreeding, as it were. So a lot of those genes made their way over to Scandinavia. So I like the red hair as a piece of that. There's some stuff she does with her hair, which I think we could get, I think, in the very intro of this thing, I think. We get to see it. Yeah, this, like, you get the braid over thing up into the bun kind of thing, which is not, like, that's a very sort of northern Germanic Europe kind of vibe, right? Like, that's, like, associated a lot with Germany often, but it's definitely also, like, the Scandinavian, like, obsession with braids is definitely in there. I feel my Danish accent leaking into my English now. God damn it. Oh, God. I'm going to have to work so hard to get it out again. Like, that's definitely there. And I do like as a character design element, like this little glowing ribbon that she's sort of braided into the whole thing. Pretty bad for stealth, I would imagine, but like a cool visual component of it. But there really is very little national stereotyping in her character design at all. And that's, on the one hand, cool, like, fine. The national stereotypes in Overwatch can sometimes get a little, much. On the other hand, it also means she really, like, there's very little I look at her and I really, like, identify her as, oh, like, this could just as well be a Celtic hero, right? Like, there is a little bit of the snowflake thing in her design with the cold weather gear, which, again, Denmark isn't that fucking cold. It just isn't. This is the warm Scandinavian country. But yeah, it genericizes her. Like, I am missing something that would be more specifically drawn from Denmark, from Danish mythology. And like, if you want it, like, there are definitely options in Danish mythology and iconography that you could work with, or even like in the Norse mythology, that would sort of connect closer to Denmark. Like, there's a lot of like historical clothing you could have taken some inspiration from, whereas they've gone with this like cloak thing that to me just has more of a bird aspect, like, which is also like, she has jumping, flying powers, kind of, because like the goddess Freja, like the goddess of love, she's associated with cats, for example. Like, that's her most specific animal, is like an association specifically with cats. So like, maybe you could have incorporated some cat theming in there instead of bird theming for her mobility or something like that. If you wanted to go with the bird theming, a component of Norse mythology specifically, and again, if you're going with the name Freya, then you're going with a bit of a mythology theming. In Norse mythology, there is the idea of hamskifter, people who put on the skins of animals in order to turn into them or gain their capabilities. The gods would often like go and put on like the skin of an eagle in order to soar through the air and go off on some far distant adventure. So if you wanted her to have some kind of flying power, like, I feel like with the cape, there's something you could do there where it's more a thing of like, she's putting on a cape of bird feathers in order to like, where you construct those, like, rather than wearing the skin of an animal, she pulls out like a gadget that temporarily gives her the abilities of like some kind of bird themed thing. Like, you could do something with that where like she has this sort of animal motif in over it. Not a lot of archery either when it comes to like Danish mythology and stuff like that, like the Eddas and the sagas. You do get it. Like, there is definitely people like shooting bows and arrows and stuff, but it's usually bows and arrows and not crossbows. And generally the weapons that are fetishized in a lot of our mythology are more often hammers, swords, axes, things like that. So the crossbow also feels a little bit, it's weirdly anachronistic, right? Like with Hanzo, he has his bow, right? Because of samurai, like the primary weapon of the samurai for most of the time that they existed as a class was the bow. It wasn't the sword. That's sort of a later invention. Eventually it became the gun, I should say. Again, if you're going with sort of the Danish, if you wanted to have again, it's that anachronism, right? Like, she's clearly going for an anachronism in that she's using these medieval tools and wearing these medieval style clothes, right? Rather than like a modern tech jumpsuit kind of thing. But the anachronism, it doesn't make sense a lot. Like, it doesn't really evoke any particular aspect of Danishness to me, which is like, that's a bit of a pity. You could have done something with that, I feel. As for the rest of the suit, it's a little bit like not a lot, right? that's a weird way to phrase it, but it's kind of not anything. As a suit, it is just kind of a generic Batman, like, I'm a tech Batman, right? Running around on rooftops with a cloak that lets me like fly through the air. And then, like, she has lights on her boots and her pants because of because of I don't know, because technology. So therefore there are lights on her boots, right?
Freja.
Why are there lights on her boots? Why do her boots go up here and then they cut off and then she has like is it cold weather gear or not? Could you make up your minds? Because like either is fine. Like it's not a problem that she's showing thigh. I quite enjoy it when attractive women show thigh, but it's like this thing of like, is she wearing cold weather gear or isn't she? Is she trying to dress for like harsh, cool Arctic environments or isn't she? Make up your minds, because this weird waffling in between, I can see the need to have like to break up these very like, she's got a lot of earth tones going on, right? Like a lot of browns, a lot of grays. I can see the need to break that up by maybe showing like a different color or something, but why skin then? Because having her showing skin completely contradicts the whole, like, she's wearing a winter cloak. She's from the high north with all these frozen ice crystal motifs and things like, okay, so then lean into that. Like, you wouldn't have May running around showing thigh. Like, a lot of people would like her to do that, me included. That would be lovely to see. Lovely fan service pandering, but that doesn't make any goddamn sense with her character design, because her character design is about wearing cold weather gear. So, like, why is this here? Like, just seems to be there to break up the color surfaces. It doesn't seem to be related to anything about who she is as a person. That's the other thing, is, like, we have this character whose story is, once I was part of a search and rescue team, I found meaning in saving other people, and she's gone through this corruption arc, right? Like, this moral corruption arc where she felt rejected by the world, and now she's kind of simultaneously kind of taking her revenge on the world for rejecting her, but also like finding new purpose and meaning in her life by putting her skills to a much darker use, right? So you have this bright hero with like bright ideals who was slowly corrupted into something darker. Where is that in her character design, right? Like where's that edge of corruption, or that edge of like I'm slowly becoming more corrupt and more edgy as I go. I'm becoming more brutal. I'm becoming more ruthless. I'm becoming more dangerous, right? Where is that in her character design? It's really not much of anywhere there. She's not really utilitarian enough to be like a cold, ruthless, brutal mercenary. But there's also not enough like sort of brightness. It's not like, this doesn't look like a superhero costume that has been tainted by darkness, right? Like it doesn't look like this is like, yeah, it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't really look like anything. It just kind of looks generic, and that's kind of the same feeling in a slightly different direction I had when she found her target here.
I'm no scared of nothing.
I'm no scared of nothing. Indeed. What is his guy's deal? What's with his character design? Like I can see the punk thing is in there. There's definitely like a punk thing, but then not much of a punk thing because he's not dirty or like. He's so fucking clean. Like all of his clothes look like they came directly off the rack, like 2 days ago. Like he shopped for it new. It doesn't look like, which is kind of antithetical to the concept of punk. And he's sort of doing a Cyberpunk 2077 thing with the arm blades and the self-augmentation. But what the fuck is any of this supposed to add up to? Why the bright purple against this black and yellow? Like, what's that supposed to do? That's sort of alien space technology thing. Again, I don't know this guy's story. Maybe the story makes it make a little bit more sense. But as a character design, this is very, very busy.
Nothing.
I'll get quite the payout for you.
Like, this is very, very busy. There's so much fucking shit going on here. And I'm slipping into my Danish accent again. No, leave me alone. Go away. I tried to kill you. I brought you back for a bit. Don't you dare infect me. I can't read this character at a glance. I can't read what he is in the same way. Like, you look at Mercy, you know what the fuck Mercy is about, right? Like, easy, obvious. At one glance at Mercy, it's like, yeah, that's the fucking healer, because she's a fucking angel in like with a nurse's outfit over top of it. Like, she looks like a cleric from a fantasy game through a sci-fi lens. Obvious, easy, immediate identification. May, like, she's got cold weather gear on, she's got this freeze gun, she's got, like, you can tell who and what her deal is and what she's about at a glance. That was part of the power of Overwatch's character design once upon a time. Tracer, is she the agile, fast-running hero? Wow, gee, I could not tell from simply looking at her. Yes, I could, because it was incredibly well-designed and obvious. Same thing with Widowmaker, right? Like, I have my criticisms of her character design, but you can tell what she's about. She's the Black Widow. She's the fucking sniper. She's the one who, like, very fragile, but she'll kill you in like one hit if she gets a bead on you. You can tell that just from looking at her, what her deal is. I don't know about this guy. It's like, I mean, yeah, he wants to stab me with a big purple arm blade. I got that part, but who is he? What's his deal? Where's he from? What does he want? What's with the augmentation? What's any of this about? Like, what's his personality? Is this like a good guy with a rough look, or is this like a real mean, evil, bad guy? Because he's kind of too clean and handsome and nice looking to be a real crusty villain, but he's also kind of too scary and dark looking to be a hero. So what the fuck is the deal with him? I cannot tell by looking at him. Like, what the hell is this guy's vibe? It's, I don't know. Is it just a perspective thing here, or did Orisa get really small? Didn't she used to be like a really big mech? It must be a trick of the perspective, because she looks fucking tiny.
Nu Vangada!
But you wanted the best, and you got it?
Okay, no, but she looks a little small. I remember her as being bigger. Danish accent, go away. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. The character design of Overwatch, it hasn't really grabbed me for a while. Like, I haven't really seen those instantly iconic characters. Because it's also, the more characters you add to any video game, the more you're going to run out of instantly iconic characters to create, right? It's just, yeah. I love the accent. I love the voice work. Very good. Olivia Lee Andersen, top. Fantastisk job. Du gjorde det rigtig godt. But, yeah, I can't really tell what the fuck's the deal with her. Like, the character design isn't really giving me the storytelling of who she is. I'm not seeing the remnants of someone who once cared about search and rescue, but who has been turned to a darker purpose. I'm not seeing someone who's like an ice queen, cold and like dispassionate and like only focused on the job. That's not really there either. There's too much passion in her character design for that like coldness and like raw, brutal efficiency. I'm not really seeing a thrill seeker who gets off on the thrill of the hunt either. For that, honestly, if that's what you really wanted, I would sexualize her a little bit more. Like, I would give her a little bit more of like an eroticism. And I don't just mean a little bit of bare thigh. I mean, like, actually lean into that to really sort of imply like this is hedonism, right? Like, she's getting off on this on a personal level, and that's why she's doing it. The character design really isn't telling me any of those things. It's just sort of a very generic sci-fi fantasy hero with very little in terms of like national identifiers. Like, there's very little here that feels pulled right from Danish culture, at least not as I would recognize it. Maybe there's something there that's pulled from Danish culture as it's understood in like California. Like, maybe they went to Solvang or something, who knows. But yeah. Mixed feelings, but that I will also say, in the interest of sort of balance, like I said at the start, I have had very mixed and bitter feelings about Overwatch for a long time, and it's entirely possible that they're coloring my perception of her, right? Maybe if I was still starry-eyed in the early days of Overwatch, like if it was the early days of Overwatch, and they were still on a hot streak, and everything looked rosy and optimistic, and like everything was super cool, and they put out this character design, maybe I would feel very differently about her, because, you know, that's context. But as it stands right now, I just don't know what this character design is trying to do as a piece of storytelling. I don't know what it's trying to tell me. I don't know what it's trying to communicate, because none of it seems to line up with the character that's presented in the story that we were told. But that's just a first impression, anyway. A Danish Overwatch hero. A Danish Overwatch hero. Well, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Like, and I will also say, Danes, even I, old crusty cynic that I am, we are charmed whenever we are included in anything. I remember there was an old RTS called World in Conflict, I think, or World at War, something like that, where part of the campaign takes place in Europe with NATO fighting the Russians for a time. And when you're commanding the NATO forces, there's an APC, I think, which is crewed by Danish soldiers, and they got like Danish voice actors in, and they did like, "Hey, skal vi ud på en køretur? Get on that machine gun and skyd!" Like, where and I remember being so charmed by it because we don't get to see ourselves much in global media. It's very rare that a Danish anything gets presented with any amount of like, even with the accurate accent. Like I've heard comedians try and sort of do do sort of cartoon versions of Danish accents, and they never hit it. They just do a really weird Norwegian accent instead. Milo from Trash Future, I'm talking about you, buddy. Your Danish accent is trash. I'm sorry. It sounds nothing. You sound like a Norwegian. You sound like a Norwegian who very recently got fucked in the ass by a Swedish person. That's what you sound like. You don't sound Danish. Not whatsoever. Calling out a podcast host from a podcast I love. That's what I'm doing at the end of this video. Anyway, I think I've talked enough. The ADHD meds have worn off. It's about to be midnight and I need dinner. Bye.